For my observation this week of a lesson my teacher did, I witnessed a really cool lesson actually. Um, she had the concept attainment worksheets that they worked on, which was really cool to see that in action in a classroom. Um, but the lesson objectives for the lesson were to have students know the qualifications for and the roles of Congress. So, like, what it takes to be a senator and what it takes to be representative, and the roles of Congress versus the other two branches of government. She first had the students do two concept attainments, and one was related to the goal, or the objective of the lesson, and the other was not. It was just for fun to get them to get the idea of how to do these. And so she did those, and then she would first, within those concept attainments, she would first give them an example from each group and say, this is group A and this is group B. And then from there, they went crazy and were really into it, trying to figure it out. It was a really good puzzle for them, and a lot of them enjoyed it. Um, then for the second one, she started she gave them the groups, and then they were going crazy trying to figure out what the groups were, and she asked them a lot of probing questions within those, like once they got that each group was, like which ones were in each group, they had to figure out what the groups mean. And so she asked them a lot of probing questions to help them figure out what the actual groupings were, the classifications. And so that was really interesting to see. And then once they did those, then she had them go to their books, and in a little inset in the book called You Are the Policy Maker, she had them write a paragraph about whether or not they think congressmen should have term limits. And then the class was over. The students, like I said, they really enjoyed the lesson, and almost all of them participated. They were really active. Some of them were like jumping out of their seats, trying to raise their hand to answer the questions, and they were really invested. Like, if they aren't really vocal in the class, some of the less vocal students actually participated in this activity more. But if they still weren't participating, it was clear that they were paying attention and they were engaged and they were trying to figure it out in their heads. They just weren't very vocal. But it was really cool to see because the class really enjoyed, many of the students enjoyed thinking in that way, that the concept attainment provides. And there wasn't really any option for note taking other than, like, when they got which group on the concept attainment to fill out the worksheet, they would write it down. And then when they got out their books to write the paragraph, they had their notebooks out. But other than that, there wasn't really any note taking options. And I would say this learning experience was successful because the student engagement was very evident. And it was successful for almost all the students, especially those that work well with that type of thinking that the concept attainment provides. Like I said, I have the evidence I have is the verbal engagement of students, and their eyes were on her, and they were engaged, and they weren't really talking out of turn. There wasn't a lot of, she didn't have to refocus them at all, really, except when she would change from one worksheet to the next, or from the bookwork, or to the bookwork from the worksheets. It was really the only time she had to refocus them. They were really engaged in the material. This actually resembles something that we did in class. We did a concept attainment in class with Dr. Hicks, and I think it represents the ideas of our class really well because it gets the students to come up with the answers rather than the teacher telling them the answers. And I like the game aspect of the concept attainment, especially when they're really engaged in it. And finally, the only thing that I would probably do differently is have them write down the qualifications for a House and a Senate member, and the powers of each branch of government. I know that they've had it, but I mean, it's boring, but I feel like they should have written it down just to have it in their notebooks. But other than that, it was a really good lesson, and she had, like I said before, a lot of probing questions that they could answer and they were willing to answer, and not a lot of behavior issues. I mean, they are dual government students, so they're seniors, but it was a really, really great lesson to witness. So that is my post for the week of November 4th.